Caution: this game contains scenes of violence and gore, as well as depictions of criminal acts. These acts are strictly punished by law. Please do not attempt to imitate them. This game also contains themes of sexual violence and self harm. This game is a work of fiction. Any relationship to real persons, groups, places, or crimes is coincidental.
That's it? No, nigga, you. Bro, that shit pisses me off, dude. He was right. He was so fucking close. He was so close. He was fucking right there, dude. This nigga is such a bum. This shit is starting to piss me off, dude. This man, this good friend, is such a bum ass zipcoon ass black spook in Japanica. I'm getting fucking tired of him. Oh my god. Lord, please give me the strength to fucking finish. I'm sorry, to finish this visual novel. Because this man, Dingo, Takumi okay, you wouldn't even be a man, Dingo, but this friend, Takumi Nishijo, is really getting on my fucking last nerve. It was right there. It was a Blue's Clue. Okay? The sword was fucking right there. It was literally a Blue's Clue. I give up. Fuck you. Fucking bitch. See, this is why I didn't fucking watch this thing. What do you mean this is why I didn't want to watch the fucking, what's it called? I knew it would be some bullshit. What do you mean she has a twin sister? The entrance to the Hanzomon subway was packed, even though it was almost midnight. Thanks to the earthquake, all the trains and buses were running late. The people heading through the turnstiles weren't even trying to hide their annoyance. Yasuji Ban was in the station staff's office, watching them on the monitors. The call had come in from the station yesterday morning. There was a report of a teenage girl attacking people with a huge bladed weapon. The local police had rushed to the scene, but when they got in there was no sign of a girl or the man she'd supposedly attacked. Bond had happened to hear this and noticed the description of the man she'd supposedly attacked. There were several earlier reports of the same thing happening. That's why he'd come here at this god-awful hour. Supposedly, the station's video cameras had captured the incident on tape. When he'd asked the station staff to show him the video, they'd eagerly agreed, stopping only to add that it was a little bit creepy. He had them use the station monitors to show him the footage. It was full of static. The static was probably from the earthquake. He'd heard a lot of other hard disk drives had lost data today. That probably had something to do with it. It was only barely possible to make out what was going on. It would be very hard to identify any individuals on the tape. The monitor was showing a single man. He was on the right side of the screen, a distance away from the monitor, standing against the wall. The camera was showing his spot, a distance away from the turnstiles, one you wouldn't use if you were just here to get on the train. In fact, the only other people to appear on screen were people quickly cutting across the camera's field of view. The screen was so fuzzy with static that it was hard to tell, but he looked like he was short and extremely thin. He was wearing a heavy backpack, too. Bond couldn't imagine what he was doing there. He fast-forwarded the video, and after an hour or so, something happened. A few of the passerby walking across the screen headed toward the man and stopped. It looked to Bond as if they were being drawn in by the backpack he was wearing. What was especially strange, though, was that they didn't seem to be talking. They were just standing there, menacingly. And the few who stopped didn't seem to know that they were at the corner of Conch and Coral either. They were of different ages and gender and seemed to have nothing in common besides running away from the maniac. What was going on? Just as Bond started to really get confused at the going-ons on screen, though, a girl appeared on the camera, Senna. She was wearing a Suime Academy uniform and had long hair. She walked right up to the man with the backpack. The way she was moving was clearly different from the ones who'd stopped nearby him before. She knocked them out of the way as she grabbed the backpack man's collar. The two of them argued for a moment, or actually it felt like the girl was threatening the man. This seemed to bring the others back to their senses. They quickly walked away. A few moments later, the girl gave the man a hard shove. The man fell flat on his ass, and then something strange happened. The girl took a step back and struck an odd pose. She dropped low and seemed to bring her fists up to her ears. It looked like she was holding something heavy in her hands. There was nothing there at all. The report had said she was carrying a huge bladed weapon, but where could she be hiding it on her body? The answer immediately became clear. The screen, that is. The camera suddenly began to shake. This wasn't static. The way the hair and clothes of people were flapping as if they were blowing in the wind made that clear. What the hell? Bond leapt forward to get a closer look at the screen. Suddenly, the girl was holding a huge sword in her hands. It was bigger than she was tall, and Bond had no idea where she'd gotten it from. He had them rewind the tape so he could see it again. See it again! No matter how many times he watched it, the sword seemed to just appear from thin air. And if nothing else, the girl hadn't moved at all. What kind of magic trick is this? The people on the screen were freaking out at the girl and her sword. She, however, was completely ignoring them. The man with the backpack, though, was clearly frightened. He scrambled to his feet and tried to run away. The girl refused to let him. The man was surprisingly agile as he ran. The girl caught up and swung the massive blade like it weighed nothing at all. The sword cut through the man's backpack like a tornado. The impact knocked him to the ground. He didn't seem to have been hurt, though. In fact, when the police got there, they hadn't found any blood at all. He said Musume. He said like like Pretty Derby. Bond whispered aloud. The girl suddenly looked at the camera as if she heard him, even though there was no way she could with a pre-recorded video. The screen blurred for a moment. But only a moment. Then I was back in control. Ah! And she was gone. It was as if she'd never been there in the first place. The shattered remains of the man's backpack, though, testified that she had been. It was hard to tell from the static on the screen, but it was plain that she'd disappeared in less than the span of a second. Bond rewound the tape. The timestamp in the corner showed nothing unusual at all. In other words, this video hadn't been spliced. But how to explain the disappearance of the girl and the appearance of the sword, then? Bond felt like he'd seen a ghost. He had no explanation for any of this. The world around me was perfectly white. I was lying down. It felt like I was floating, but I couldn't tell if I was. I couldn't tell which way was up and which way was down. The silence was loud in my ears. It was like hundreds of crickets were chirping in my head. If somebody had told me this was the afterlife, I wouldn't have doubted it for a second. This place was just so monotone, empty, silent. Suzuka. Orderly. Organized. Equino dictus. Vacant. And peaceful. This must have been what the Buddha's brain was like after he achieved enlightenment. It wasn't like my brain at all. I wanted to stay here forever. All the crap I had to put up with in the real world, the pain, the suffering, the emptiness, I didn't want to deal with any of it. And then a noise disrupted the silent white world. It was the sound of a door opening and the sound of somebody's footsteps. They were coming closer.
お兄、来たよ。
Oni-chan, I came to brother. I came to see you.
いっしょ、いっしょ。
Let's see. Here it is.
お兄、今日ね。
Big brother, big brother.
今の持ってきた
I
よ。
brought you something.
はい。これ
Look,
プレゼン
a present.
ト。手編みの帽子なんだよ。
It's a hand knit cap.
すごいで
It's
す。
great, isn't it? Isn't it?
もう冬だしね。
It's
そう
winter,
ね。
and I like caps, so I knitted one for you.
使ってね。
Use it, okay?
も
Mm,
う、お兄、無視しないでよ。
Bubby, don't ignore me.
おー。
Hey,
ご飯
you
食べ
didn't
てるし
finish
せっ
your
かくのカレーな
meal,
のに。
and it's curry today, too.
ちゃんと食べないとダメなんだよ。
You need to eat.
ねえねえ、病院のご飯
Hey,
っ
is
て
it true
美味しく
that
ないって
hospital
本当？
food isn't very good?
でも食べないとダメ。
But you need to eat.
起きろ。お兄、
Get up, big
食べ
brother.
ずに寝た
If
ら
you go to
夜
sleep
に
without
お腹
eating,
空いちゃうん
you'll
だ
get
から。
hungry in the middle of the night. Somebody's hand came around to my back. They pushed me and sat me up. It was only then that I realized my eyes were closed. I opened them and there was a small girl there. It was Nanami, my little sister. But she was so small. It was Nanami as she had looked several years ago. How many years, though? She had to be in elementary school at least.
はい、あーして。
Okay, say ah. The young Nanami scooped up curry with a plastic spoon and offered it to me. And I knocked her hand away. And for some reason, I swept the tray with curry rice onto the floor with my arm. Oh,
もう、
uh.
お兄、お行儀悪いんだ。
Bubby, you've got such bad table manners. I'll tell Mommy on you. Nanami crouched down and picked up the tray. Next, she brought a washcloth over from the sink in the corner of the room and began to clean up its splattered contents.
世話が焼けるな。
You really are a handful.
ナナがいないと。
You can't do anything without me, you know? Just leave me alone. I covered my face with my hands and slowly closed my eyes.
ごめんね。あなたを。
I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I slowly opened my eyes and saw a white ceiling. The white was dazzlingly bright. I blinked a few times. I tried moving my fingers. I brought my hand up to my face. My hand made a shadow blocking the light. Only then was I free from the brightness. I had been dreaming. It was a dream about Nanami. Nanami had always been such a little grown-up. That tendency of hers had only gotten more pronounced when I stopped talking to everybody after the bus accident. My parents just became overprotective, but whatever mean things Nanami might say, she would always try and take care of me. That dream. I ever stayed at a hospital like that? I'd been going to one, but I never stayed there, right? There was no point in trying to read too much into a dream. I was lying down on a bed. It was a simple white bed. The sheets were white, the pillows were white, the linoleum floor was white, the wallpaper was white too. Even the fluorescent lights on the ceiling were white. The curtains on the windows were white. The tiny shelf next to the bed was white. The porcelain pitcher was white. The paper cups were white. I was starting to get sick of all the whites. I tried forcing black New World Order. For a single instant, I felt the numbing pain around my lower back, but it quickly vanished. The room was pretty big, twice the size of the base at least. But it was empty. It might have been a hospital room. I could see a single pair of green slippers just under the bed. I felt relieved to find something that wasn't white. I was moving and I wasn't dead from the look of it. My throat was dry. I wanted a soda, a cold, fizzy soda. But of course, there was nothing like that in this pure white room. I ended up pouring water from the pitcher directly into my mouth. It was a little warm, but enough to slake my thirst. After I finished drinking my water and taking a moment to catch my breath, the door opened and a white-clad nurse came in. So this place was a hospital after all. She seemed a little surprised as she looked at me. She thought I was still asleep, it seemed.
あら、
Oh my,
西条さん。目が覚
Nishijo,
めたんですね。
you're awake. She smiled gently at me. What a great nurse she was. Wait, I felt like I'd seen her somewhere before. Oh, now I remember. I'd met her when I'd gone to see Dr. Takashina. What was her name again? Hazuki? Right, Hazuki.
お体の調子はどうです
How
か
are you feeling? She offered me a thermometer. I took it without really thinking about what it was going on.
体温を測ってください
Take
ね
your temperature for me, okay? I couldn't say no if she was going to be this nice. My head was overflowing with doubts, but the thermometer under my arm. Anyway, I put the thermometer under my arm anyway. Then the memories burst inside my head. I remembered. Remembered what had happened before. Up on the roof. After I'd given up on saving Nanami, I charged Shogun in his wheelchair. But there was nobody there. I'd fallen over and found myself holding a Darth Spider helmet. Count Darth Spider was a famous villain from the movie Spark Wars. His all-black silhouette was famous even in Japan. I never expected in a million years to find Shogun was wearing a Darth Spider cosplay. And all my anger melted away, replaced by confusion. I stood up and looked at the wheelchair. Nobody was in it. There was a black hooded robe draped over the back of the chair. It was part of Darth Spider's costume, too. I looked around to see if anyone else was there, but there wasn't. I was the only person on the dark roof. Then the media came rushing in. They surrounded me with microphones, cameras, and lighting. There was nowhere to turn. I didn't count how many people were there, but at least a dozen. The sheer intensity of them all terrified me. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move an inch. They were crushing me. Nishijo, what did your psychic powers tell you? Does this mean you failed to find out who's behind the Nugent murders? Does that Darth Spider helmet have something to do with your powers? Nishijo, would you please answer us? If this is the end of the show, you just hijacked the airwaves for nothing. What was the point of all this? Are you trying to use the Nugent murders to get famous? Don't you think that's a little inappropriate? Have you talked to Yuri Brightman lately? What did you talk about? Do you think there's a connection between the earthquakes and Nugent? Is that an anime figurine you're holding in your hands for some kind of ritual? Did anime or video games make you do this? Nishijo. The lights were so bright. It felt like my flesh was burning under a midsummer sun. There were so many people around me that the heat of their bodies was making my head feel woozy. My vision was spinning. I was pushed into a corner, panicking. I couldn't breathe. I put my hands to my head. I couldn't see a thing. I didn't want to see a thing. I couldn't hear a thing. I didn't want to hear anything. I couldn't feel a thing. I didn't want to feel a thing. Stop. Stop it! And as I screamed, my mind went blank like a short-circuited. That is so bright. That's right, I passed out. And then, how'd I end up... There wasn't... Nothing was taking his pulse before. There was no heart monitor before this. Uh-oh. That might be important, maybe. Whatever. I couldn't remember. But if nothing else, I was sure I hadn't walked here on my own. Maybe I'd been brought here by an ambulance? Hazuki was writing something on the clipboard in her hand. There must have been some kind of paper stuck on it. Was she writing down my symptoms? I was able to check the time from the simple, nondescript wristwatch on her arm. It was just past 6 in the morning. I'd been out for a long time from the look of it. But why this hospital, though? If Hazuki was there, that meant it was the one I usually went to. This place was a big general hospital. I could see somebody deciding to bring me here. But something still didn't seem right. I wasn't sure why Hazuki would be the one assigned to me. She worked in the psychiatric ward, right? If she was here, did that mean this room was usually used by mental patients? Maybe the beds were all full because so many people were hurt in the earth. Stop! Hurt in the earth. Maybe the beds in the mental ward had been the only ones open. Or maybe they thought I'd collapsed some mental disorder? Well, if they did, they weren't that far off. I was starting to feel more depressed. Your family was here to see you yesterday, but you weren't waking up, so they left around midnight. Your mother will be coming around the time we open for visitors. I nodded, since I didn't even have the strength to answer. Mom, I'm the most embarrassing son of all Japan. No, maybe the entire world. Why did it have to be on TV? The whole country had seen me up there sobbing and crying. It was almost certainly on YouTube, too. I didn't know why they were saying I was some kind of psychic boy, or why they'd want to broadcast every move of a creepy loser otaku like me on the day of that huge earthquake. The only conclusion I could come up with was that Shogun really had mind controlled them all. Either way, they'd seen me in all my shame. This wasn't some internet thing that'd be over in a day or two. I might not ever have a peaceful life again. Suddenly, an image of Nanami's face flashed in my mind. I bit my lip and squeezed my hands against my thighs. If I'd managed to save Nanami, none of that would have mattered. The whole world could have laughed at me for the rest of my life and I wouldn't have cared. But I hadn't even been able to save her.
Nana.
Tears came pouring down face. Well, what's wrong? Does it hurt somewhere? I shook my head again and again as I cried. Nanami was dead. Nanami wasn't coming back. It was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault. Because I was such a loser. That's why Nanami had died. Up on that roof, I'd listened to Sedatan, or rather my heart's weakness talking to me through her, and given up on the D-Store without even really trying. I'd chosen to save myself and pretend to be a poor little victim instead of saving her. I hated myself from the bottom of my heart. When I was up there, if I tried a little harder, I was the one who made the decision to give up. And yet I regretted it now that everything was over. That was the worst possible thing a person could do. Regret didn't help anybody, but still, I couldn't help but think, if I could go back to that moment, I'd try a little harder. But of course, even if I did go back, I'd probably make a bunch of excuses and give up again anyway. That was what I always did. God, I was pathetic.
Nanami. ごめん。Nanami.
Hazuki rubbed my back to comfort me. I was such a failure. I was even causing trouble for this nurse and she had nothing to do with it. But the tears kept coming. There's something you regret, isn't there? But don't worry, I'm sure your sister will forgive you. Huh? How did she know Nanami was my sister? And I didn't want to hear something so cliched. I hated to say this about Hazuki when she was being so nice, but there was no way she could understand how I felt. I hated myself so much. I was so pathetic. I kept looking for other people to comfort me when I only cared about myself. I'd be better off dead. Maybe I really should kill myself.
昨日もしきりに西条さんのことを
She was really worried about you yesterday.
とても可愛らしい
Your younger
妹さん
sister
で
is
すね
very cute, isn't she? What was she talking about?
ナナミは
Nanami,
妹は
my sister,
死にました。
is dead. Shogun had kidnapped her. He chopped off her arm. He'd locked her up somewhere. And she'd probably died there all by herself and lonely. The thought of it made me feel like my heart would burst.
そうなんですか
Is that right?
ごめんなさい
I'm sorry, I must have been mistaken. I'd always thought that Nanami was obnoxious, but thinking back, we'd been siblings for 16 years. She'd always called me a jerk, but she'd always been worried about me. She was always so annoying because she was trying to break me out of my miserable life. When she brought something to eat from home, she didn't just give it to me. She always tried to make sure we ate together. Normally, a girl that age would be trying her best to ignore a creepy older brother like me. Nanami might have been mean, but she always talked to me. She'd always listen to what I have to say. At school, even, instead of ignoring me, she'd actively try to talk to me. I was pathetic, a virgin otaku. But Nanami always treated me like I was her brother. Like I was a person. She was one of the few things that kept me going. Realizing that when it was too late didn't change anything though.
でも
But
だとしたら
what did she
お兄
mean
ってどう
by
いう意味なのかしら
brother then? Huh? Huh? I looked up, unsure of what she meant. My eyes were so teary I couldn't even see the look on her face. What had she just said?
眠ってる西条さんを
She kept calling you brother
お兄
while you were
何度も
asleep
呼んでいた
over
から
and over
その
again.
印象が
It
強く
really
て
stuck with me. There was only one person who called me that.
それ
Is that
本当ですか
is that true? I was so excited that I got out of bed and went over to her.
ははい
I'm sorry. Is what true? Nanami,
が妹
my
が
little sister,
来てたんですか
came here?
いえその
No, I didn't get her name. But she was calling me brother, right?
え
Yes.
な
Where's Nanami now?
です
I
から
told you she went
昨
home
日は
last
お
night.
か西条さん
Her and your
を
mom.
怪我
Was she hurt? Was Nanami hurt?
はい
I'm sorry. No, not in any way that I could see.
元気だったって
Was she doing okay? She was doing okay, right?
あはい
Yes, well, I don't know if the girl I saw yesterday was Nanami, but the one who was here seemed to be just fine.
昨日
Nanami
いら
was
してた
alive.
女の子は
From what
元気
Hazuki
そう
was
でし
saying,
た
that
よ
much seemed clear. I sat back down on the bed. My brain was close to total shutdown. What had happened? Shogun said he wouldn't give Nanami back unless I finished a quest. Had he released her out of pity? Was that even possible? Or had she run away on her own? But then what about the hand that had shown up in my room? Hazuki had even said she wasn't hurt. That might have been someone else's wrist, you know. So he wasn't lying when he said that. Shogun had just been toying with me. He deceived me. No, the fact that he deceived me didn't even matter now. I see. So she was okay. She was okay. She was okay. Nanami had never been kidnapped in the first place. While I was on the top of Ofran trying to grab that D's sword, she was probably at home reading manga in bed or going to karaoke with her friends and singing off key. I was crying, but I couldn't help. I couldn't stop laughing.
に西条さん
Nishijo. Shogun really got me good.
バト騙された本当に
Man,
壮大な釣りだよ
talk about an epic troll. Nanami was alive. She was alive. I'd get to see her bratty. Oh. Hear her obnoxious voice again. That shit ruined it. Fucking, I was really trying hard not to laugh, but dude, that fucking ruined it. Come on, man. Oh fuck. That that ruined it bad. I felt so relieved and so happy.
よかった。
I'm so glad. The tears wouldn't stop. But they weren't the tears of frustration I'd been weeping a moment ago.
よかっ
I'm so glad. Maybe I was a total failure. Maybe I'd given up on trying to save Nanami on my own yesterday. But as long as she was safe, that was all that mattered. The whole world could laugh at me, and I wouldn't care. Really, I was just so happy. This nigga about to wake up. There was another meeting being held in the big conference room on the Shibuya police station today. All the detectives looked exhausted, and none of them were looking forward to more hours of useless discussion. As Matsunaga started asking the various officers for their reports, Bond nervously raised his hand.
ちょっといいですかね。
May I speak?
なんだね。
What is it? It wasn't just Matsunaga who looked suspicious. Even Suwa in the chair next to him, and the rest of the detectives too, looked suspicious. Bond gave his usual shallow smile and then made a few little bows as he looked around the room.
先日
About the video that was uploaded to the internet. The other day. The so-called group dive video. I've made a small discovery.
え
Huh? Suwa seemed shocked. It was understandable that he would be. Bond hadn't told his partner a word about his investigations into the video. Of course, it wasn't that he wanted to keep it a secret, but...
バン警部補
Lieutenant Bond, I believe you were assigned to the Crucified case.
なぜ集団ダイブについて
Why are you looking into the group dive? Well, that was why. Bond had been ignoring the task force orders and going off on his own, and he didn't want to get Suwa involved. That would be a great way to ruin the career of a promising young detective who looks like brown-haired Phoenix Wright.
ああまあ
Well, at least hear me out first. Bond gave a sheepish smile as he took out large photos of the file folder in front of him. He pinned them to the board with magnets.
これはどっちも
These are both photos of Cornelius Tower, the location of the group dive.
右の写真は
The right is taken from the video uploaded to Mewtwo.
左のは昨日
The left was taken last night when I went to the top of the tower with a camera.
何か違いに気づ
Notice
きますか
anything unusual?
Ah.
There's a fucking building that wasn't there. Murmurs spread throughout the room. What kind of fucking...
背景がね
The background looks different. You don't fucking say, nigga.
投稿映像の
The camera used to take the video is pointing to the northeast. We know that because that's the side the 5 kids fell off.
で
Now, from 329 in the video,
10秒から
there's a 15-second span
カメラが
where the camera shakes wildly from left to right.
その時に東に向いたとこ
What you see when it's pointing east is this photo on the right.
コーネリアスタワーの東
The east side of Cornelius Tower facing Roppongi, in other words.
東京タワーが夜景の中に
You can see the Tokyo Tower standing out against the night sky.
目立ちま
It's
す
red, so it really sticks out.
でもね
But there's one other thing that sticks out,
映ってないの
which isn't there. Bond narrowed his eyes and stroked the stubble on his chin, a self-deprecating smile on his face.
六本木ビルズですよ
Roppongi Bills. Look at the photo showed he was right. There was no sign of the lights from Roppongi Bills. But in that photo that Bond had taken yesterday, the lights from the window of Roppongi Bills could be clearly seen next to the Tokyo Tower.
でたまたま見つけたんです
Now, I happen to find a little display in the tower lobby celebrating the building's completion.
そのパネルの一つがこれ
One of the panels contains this photo. Bonta got another photo from his folder and pinned it to the other two. It was another photo from the roof, this time taken during the day, not at
六
night.
本木ビルズが映ってますよ
You
ね
can see Roppongi Bills, right?
建設中ですが
It's under construction, though. The murmurs in the room grew. There's still no building there, even if it was being constructed. It's only been a month. That's a fucking skyscraper, and there's still no fucking building. The murmurs in the room grew even louder. Even Matsunaga was staring at the photo silently, a stern expression still plastered on his
コーネリア
face.
スタワーの完成は2001年
Cornleonis Tower was finished in 2001. Roppongi Bills was
2003
finished in 2003.
タワー完成当時の写
Of
真では
course, in the photo taken when the tower was complete, Roppongi Bills was still under construction.
高さもほとんどない
Wasn't the size it is today.
だが
But the group dive took place in this year, in 2008.
映ってない
It doesn't make sense for it to not be there.
ちなみに
For what it's worth, there's no sign the video was altered.
形跡はなかった
What are you getting at? Matsunaga sounded impatient and annoyed. This is really hard to come out and say, but
以上
are you trying to tell us that this video was taken before 2003? That is over 5 years ago? Hey, come on now, Sua. Bond's shoulders slumped. That was exactly what he was trying to say, and he couldn't help but be impressed at the young detective's intuition and sharp mind, and definitely not the fucking ability to add 2 plus 2 together. Bond's attempts to find the best way to phrase that all come to naught. Ridiculous. Sure you haven't been reading too much fiction, nigga. The faces of the victims in the video match. There's no way the video could be from 5 years ago. If you've got time to go researching useless nonsense, then why don't you go out and do your job, Lieutenant? Well, I'll do you a favor and pretend this never happened. Also, stay after the meeting. I need to talk to you personally. This nigga about to die. Bond sighed a little, gave up, and sat down. Well, he hadn't expected it to work in the first place. He lazily flapped his fan in front of his face, trying to tell himself he expected it to go this badly the whole time. Of course, Bond himself had no answer to the question of what Roppongi Bills not being in the video meant. After I found out Nanami was alive, the doctor came and asked me some simple questions. The questions were to see if I was functioning well or not. I gave half-hearted answers as I decided to get out of the hospital before my mom came. I just embarrassed myself on national TV. How was I supposed to face my family? And if Nanami came, I was sure to start crying from sheer joy. And then Nanami would say, "Don't make me worry like that, Jared." She'd be totally serious too, and I'd have no idea what I'd been through. Imagining the embarrassment made me feel almost physical pain. I decided to make a strategic retreat before it actually happened. After eating a small amount of the disgusting breakfast they brought me, I slipped out of my room. I went down to the first floor through the lobby. Since the hospital wasn't open, the outpatient hall wasn't packed with seniors like it usually was. When I got to the front door, I walked right out. Fortunately, the automatic door opened just like it was supposed to. Leaving the hospital might get the doctors and nurses mad at me, but I could always go back here once everything had calmed down. I left a note for my mom telling her to pay my bill. That was good enough, right? Dude, okay, there we go. It was X. I'd spent the night in the hospital, but physically there was nothing wrong with me, and mentally knowing Nanami was safe had driven a lot of my depression away. I headed back to the base at top speed, being careful to make sure Yua and Shogun weren't waiting in ambush for me. I was back. My mental state was completely different than it was when I'd left. Now I felt great, of course. If anything, I wish I could speak to the me who'd left here yesterday. You're about to get trolled, mine. You don't need to worry so much. Nanami's fine, lol. I'd say something like that. Yesterday had been really awful. Everything had been awful. It started with that weird call in the morning, then the earthquake. Then I'd lost the data on my hard drive. I'd had to witness ISA's suicide attempt up close. And then there was that email from Shogun. He sent me a severed hand. A severed hand. The joy I was feeling faded instantly. I gulped and turned toward the fridge. The hand was still inside. Before I'd left, my head was in a total mess. The best idea I could come up with was to put it in the refrigerator. It might rot if I left it out, and the blood smelled really bad too. There were lots of sci-fi anime and movies where people live for hundreds of years in cold sleep, right? It was kind of the same as that. Yesterday, I'd been really thinking that when Nanami was safe, if I'd kept her hand in good condition, maybe they could do an operation to put it back on. If that wasn't Nanami's hand, then whose was it? Yua's sister. And how to explain the bangle in the phone. Yua's twin sister that apparently she fucking has. Like, she did say on the phone that she had a sister, but so fucking glad that the fucking I waited too long on the title screen and just Yua has a twin sister, nigga. What? Bakushin! If I wasn't mistaken, those both belonged to Nanami. When I called Nanami's number, that phone had rung. Or maybe that was all part of Shogun's plan. Was it really possible to make such a perfect copy of her hand, though?
もう一度
Maybe I should. Okay, so Shogun is another personality inside of him, so maybe it was just a delusion that was conjured up like an error, like the same way that the flower bed was. Look, he's about to open the refrigerator and there's gonna be Jack fuck there. I really didn't want to, though. A severed hand was just disgusting. Just imagining it made me want to throw up, even if it was Nanami's. But I couldn't keep it in the fridge forever. I'd have nowhere to chill my soda. I thought about getting the cops to come and get it, but then I remembered they thought I was a Nugent killer. It would be a suicide to call 110 and tell the operator, "Can you please come get this severed hand?" What should I do? Should I throw it away? But if I was Nanami's, it would be a bad idea to throw it away, right? Could you even put severed human hands in the garbage? Was that against the rules? If you could, would it be burnable garbage? Non-burnable garbage? I scratched at my head. Hard. There was no point in thinking about it. For now, I could start by taking another look at the bangle on the wrist and the phone in the hand. I could try and see if they were Nanami's or not. I stood in front of the fridge and grabbed the handle. I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths. The idea of having Rimi come and open it for me crossed my mind. It was tempting, but I quickly discarded it. Even if Rimi was on my side, a human hand in the fridge would freak her the fuck out. She might decide to abandon me and turn me over to the police. I had to deal with this myself. Ugh. Damn it. I gritted my teeth. I took 2 more deep breaths. Then I pulled hard on the handle. Jack fuck! Chase was right! There's Jack fuck in there! It was a fucking because the fucking good Shogun is an alternate personality in his head, and so it was just an error created by the Shogun personality, the way that he made the bed of flowers when Ayase fell off and fucking was about to go through the heaven's door, but she wasn't gonna go through the heaven's door. She was gonna fucking die because errors only have so much corporeality and realness to them. Yes, I just said corporeality to fucking say a big word because I wanted to say corporealness, but whatever. Either way, I was right. Probably, maybe. That hand was not fucking there. I had a fucking feeling that there was just gotta be no fucking hand in there. Either that or the police fucking came to his house and took it. The way that they were supposed to keep trailing him, and Bond decided to go jack his dick with Sua in the back alley about earthquakes and biometric electricity. It wasn't there. I didn't see it at all. I remembered putting the hand in there yesterday. It was wrapped in aluminum foil. I put it on the top shelf. But there was No sign of it. The only things in the fridge were a few soda bottles and a few rotting oranges. Nothing more.
消えた。
It's
なん
gone?
で
How? It had just disappeared. I crouched down and checked the back too. It wasn't there. There wasn't that much else. In the fridge, there was no way I could miss it.
昨日ここに入れたよ
I
な。
put it in here yesterday though. Or maybe I was only telling myself I'd done that, and I just left it where it was the whole time. Closed the fridge and looked around my garbage and porn-filled room, and mold and fucking a murder weapon and porn, and I like girls in my room, and I keep my porn out. I'm still pissed at this nigga for doing that shit.
段ボールも
The box is gone too. The big box with one hand inside of it. The big box with one hand inside of it. What had I done with it? I thought I remembered throwing it into a corner. My memories of last night weren't clear at all. Nigga, that was like the middle of the day. So much had happened yesterday that it overwhelmed my brain. Everything had been so crazy that I hadn't had time to think. Calm down, think, get things straight in your head. Try to figure out why the hand was there yesterday. Suddenly yesterday had vanished. I was mistaken. I put it somewhere else in the room. I took it outside and threw it away. Shogun took it. The police secretly... The media broke in and took it. There was never a hand. Shogun took it. Oh, wait, no, we don't snap at that. The police secretly searched my room. There was never a hand. Wait a minute. The base had been unlocked since yesterday. Anybody could have come in easily. Shogun had been able to, certainly. That's how he'd gotten the hand in here. But there was no, or was it number 2? My memories of what I'd done when I left to go to O-Front weren't clear at all. My desire to save Nanami, the images of the severed hand in my head, my fear of Shogun, all those emotions were swirling around in my head. They filled my brain way past full. Wasn't thinking clearly at all. I have no pants on. It was even possible I'd unconsciously taken the hand out of my room and thrown it in the garbage somewhere. Or maybe it was just a delusion from the start and I'd never existed to begin with. When I opened my email software, the message from Shogun was there, and all that stuff about the present was just like I remembered it. Shogun had talked about it yesterday too. It was hard to believe it was just my delusion. Could the media or the police have taken it? Those guys always look down on otaku like me and treat us like dirt. They might actually do that. After what had happened, I was afraid of looking at the internet, but still, I felt like I had to know. I opened my browser. I hit up my usual news site, starting with the taboo news section. The airwave jacking psychic is the otaku version of A Boy Who Cried Wolf. As expected, there were countless articles about the incident in Scramble Crossing yesterday. The young New Gen Boys psychic power show in the worst possible way, as MHK, BTS, and TV Yuki all ran specials on the earthquake that occurred in Shibuya. Today and Mount Fuji TV ran live feeds of the event, along with their coverage starting at 9 p.m. Angry calls soon flooded it. However, Scramble Crossing was packed with approximately 5,000 fans, who booed loudly for over an hour after the event ended with nothing ever happening. Put all your bets on fucking nothing. Who booed loudly. Okay. Some fans even started fights with each other. Fucking that one episode of Boondocks with the first Stink Meaner episode. I always forget that that's the first Stink Meaner episode because I always remember it as Your Bud Tevin's drinking game, and there's the blackest man in the world, and Riley remembers about the chair being thrown, and he throws a chair, and there's silence, and then somebody says, "I'm mad," and they all start fucking fighting. The incident began with a prank email from a self-proclaimed psychic that we'll be calling Boy Nigga. His email declared that he would identify the killer behind the new generation madness. At first, the media was skeptical. However, when Yuri Brightman, an American psychic investigator sent a message claiming to be the boy's backer today, and Mount TV Fuji TV came to believe the lies he was telling. TV ratings were high, with both TV Today and Mount Fuji TV hitting over the 40% mark. These numbers exceeded those of last year's Kohaku Singing Contest, which was typically the highest rated program in Japan. Of course, this was run alongside the earthquake coverage, but in a rating sense, the decision to cover the boy was the right one. Boy Nigga, however, was no psychic. He excited the crowd by making it look like he would jump off the building several times, but his performance ended there. Frustrated reporters rushed to the roof and attempted to interview him about the new Jin case, but this too ended in failure. The boy had collapsed on the roof and was found in possession of a cosplay outfit from a popular Holloway movie, as well as a so-called Moe anime figurine. Yoshiro Hashiba, professor at Meisei University, commented, "More and more young men these days are trying to be a hero without thinking of the trouble they're causing people around them. Video games and anime probably caused him to lose sight of the distinction between fiction and reality. It drove him to act in a way he did. He needs psychological care. This incident will go down as one of the stranger events in recent years. I had never emailed the media. I'd never seen Yuri Brightman's show. Never met him either. What was going on? Had Shogun set this whole thing up? But why? What was he after? He was saying all that weird stuff about a quest. Why would he even bring the media to put me on TV if he wanted to force me to get the D-Sword? I couldn't figure it out. What was Shogun trying to accomplish? He'd even let Nanami go. I followed the links and read a bunch of different articles, but none of them said anything about Shogun. There had been practically no time between when I'd body slammed the Shogun and when the media had showed up. Even if he managed to escape somehow, the media must have seen him. There was no way he could get out of there in such a short time, especially since he was in a wheelchair and couldn't walk. Why, okay. I looked at Chan too. Of course, the place is in a uproar. Comment after comment was listing my real fucking name and address. I love getting doxxed in 2008 by 8chan because 4chan is the American version. You make sure you read the Figure H game guide. The uniform Nishijo's kids. Boy nigga, what a loser. Dying on fire. Nishijo. No, oh, that's what they call him. Boy in, because we otaku are gonna get more shit of you. It's Seta from Floodtoon. Ha ha ha, creepy little freak. That Nishijo should have stayed a Hikikomori instead of Seta. Nishijo, you dork, I'll blow you away with my awakened rocket body blow. They were all having fun at my expense. They were making fun of me without having any idea how I was feeling. At channel could be really scary when they didn't like you. This nigga dude, this nigga is such a bum. This had all happened because of Shogun. I thought that maybe Atchan would have had information that the media wasn't reporting, but that didn't seem to be the case. I couldn't find anywhere that talked about somebody besides me being up on the roof of Ofront. It was as if the person named Shogun had never been there. Maybe that's why I hadn't seen the real Shogun, but some kind of illusion. Even if Shogun was real, the possibility that the figure in the wheelchair was just a hallucination I created. No, I want to read what that nigga said about his classmates. Maybe so many impossible things were happening. It was like a video game. What's crazy is that, like, normally he'd be right, but since it's a piece of fiction where we know that people who work for, like, who are trying to get past the elite Illuminati Jewish Mossad agents of the world, like, him questioning his sanity is actually just an attack on him rather than an actual step towards getting better at a real issue. And is like, he's not a fucking schizophrenic. Maybe there was a world where Nanami was dead and a world where she was alive. Maybe they were both parallel worlds and I get to pick which one I wanted to live in. Maybe the future branched out endlessly, like the choices in a fucking H game, because that's what we're thinking about right now. What made me different from others was that I could see what happened if I picked the bad choice in my delusions. Like with Nanamis dying, with the ISAs jumping, or how I'd fallen off the top of Hillfront. In other words, all these awful things that seemed to happen to me specifically were just traps my own mind was setting for me. Part of me wanted to escape from my boring life, where every day was the same, and into an exciting world that was more like my video games. My unconscious was just giving that to me in the form of delusions. No, that was impossible. I didn't want anything like what I was experiencing. I didn't want to experience anything scary or sad, whether it was real or not.
っていうか
Man,
どれだけ想像
do I
力
have an
豊かなんだ
overactive
よ
imagination or what? All these ideas I just thought up were just stupid, childish delusions, weren't they? I sighed and leaned back in my chair. Looking up, I only see a ceiling. It was hard to tell what reality even was. It felt like everything was a lie and like my world was an empty, hollow place.